Welcome to the Brocountability podcast where real men have real conversations. My name is Jason, and today we're diving into the crucial aspect of friendships in terms of accountability. What does it mean to truly have someone's back? Not just in the good times, but when it is they need correction, encouragement, or even reality check. Today I have my two good friends with me, Curtis and Warrell, as we dive into this topic. And so studies have shown that men with close, accountable friendships have a stronger emotional resilience and personal integrity. Yet, so many of us struggle in terms of holding our friends accountable without damaging the relationship. And so, we want to discuss ways that we can change that. But before we get, as we dive further into that, we want to ask the question: how can we have, or can we really have friendships without accountability?
I think initially we can have real friendships without accountability, but I do not think that it would grow. And if it's not growing, then it would be dying because it will just remain at that superficial level. And without accountability, the roots won't be able to grow. And then when life happens, it will just fall apart.
I don't think it's possible. I don't think that you can have like a true, authentic, real friendship that is lacking accountability. I think you can have a pseudo friendship which stays at a surface level. But I think a true friendship requires accountability. It requires that challenge from one another. You know, even thinking about it from a biblical perspective, the Bible talks about iron that sharpens iron, right? In order to do that, there's friction that happens. So there has to be this level of like, oh, I have to be able to challenge you or hold you to what it is that you said or what it is that you're trying to do, to encourage one another, to empower one another, to edify one another. And I think that comes with accountability.
As men, sometimes you build really good friendships with people without knowing much about them personally, and I think that's something that men are able to do very well. It takes a long time of friendship to um for men to become more vulnerable with each other and talk about the issues that they're having. So I would say the answer to the question is yes and no. It have people just based upon how you live life with them, you could trust them without knowing the deep things. Also, I think that is a tricky road or a shaky thing to have, because there are things that men that you have really good friendships with might be doing that you don't agree with and you don't know about unless you know to talk about it, and that sort of thing is a challenge as well. So I would say that you can have real friendships without accountability, but I do think you could have a deeper friendship without accountability in the relationship. It takes a really long time for men to be able to trust each other to be accountable to one another.
When we think about accountability, is really being able to give an account and be able to answer. And when people ask us questions, being able to justify slash respond in terms of where it is we may have fallen wrong or keeping track of what it is we're doing. And so, Curtis, what is your thought on this? I mean, we heard some of the fellows in the beginning where we had the man on the street segment in terms of their views, and some say yes, some say no. But can we have real friendships without accountability?
I think that true friendship starts with being able to tell someone that you disagree. It is okay when you agree, and then you're just one of the fans, right? If it is that you agree with everything I'm saying, that's great. I have another fan. But when you see that you can tell me that you disagree, and then I can respect you enough to listen and to see whether or not what you're saying is actually helpful to me, I think that is the definition of a true friendship.
Okay. Well, what about you?
When I think of friendship, and I just want to piggyback a little on what Curtis says, it is important for us to really have that solid foundation of what the relationship is based on. And for many of us, I think one of the struggle that we have is what the Western mindset tend to force on what is deemed friendship. I mean, if you look back even at scripture, if you yes, Jesus was savior and the guys who were with him they were disciples, but they ate together, they hung out, they prayed, they did miracles and all of that wonderful stuff. But at the same time, when it was necessary, there was correction. And I think correction is one of the most important part, because what correction does, because so many times we can be in a situation where we're not aware that something is wrong. And until we are aware of it, then that's how change can come. And I think a true friend is one who will not just go about trying to see every flaw in you, but will, let's look at it in the position of a right and a left hand. Left hand is generally for correction, but right hand embraces. And I think if you have that lovely balance of you knowing that someone got your back, then that individual and you also can, vice versa when it comes on to like looking out for each other. Celebrate the wins, but when it's time to bring some awareness of something that is going awry or could be problematic, that we're not afraid or we're not going to shy away from letting that individual know, hey, we need to maybe fix the situation. Yeah.
So, all right, so we've been friends for decades, right? But let's just say we know each other for a very long time. We have that relationship. We just check each other. We go online together. But can I not tell somebody that we are friends for decades?
Yes, we are. And if it is that we've known each other for a long time and we have become friends over the decade. And the thing is, the friendship and the period of time that we are acquainted with each other is not the same length of time. Right. And so when it is that we start to correct each other, and to say, when we start to, good. I almost said that we start to sharpen each other's iron, but that's definitely not what I want to say. When iron sharpens iron.
I know you're not going to make me coffee.
Why are you letting me go?
If you didn't do the disclaimer, Curtis, we wouldn't realize exactly. Just continue.
All right. And I think that when it is that we begin to correct each other and see the potential in one another, and okay, what you are doing might actually risk your accomplishing all that you have in store, all that you want to accomplish. I think that is when the friendship begins to strengthen, begins to build. Not just when we say, okay, well, all right, I like this person because he's a good cricketer or a good footballer and I want him on my team. But when it is that he's on my team and he is not doing his best, can I then correct him and can he take it in the best light, knowing that, hey, you know what? This person is out for my best interest.
Yeah, well, I see here that research shows that if it is already have people accountable, you're accountable to certain people, it could have lower stress and greater satisfaction. But I mean, that's a powerful thing. But the reality is, I think for Caribbean men and just men in general, it is easier said than done because when I hear somebody correcting me or being accountable to somebody, I mean, we more think about it in terms of, okay, I'm accountable to my boss in terms of a supervisor or a manager. But I mean, why do I have to tell my friend, okay, well, my aim is this with my finances or I plan to exercise? Or, I mean, those are the easier things to in terms of accountability. But then we have the other things where it is, okay, in terms of being a good father, a good husband, checking my attitude, checking my breath, or, like those sorts of things where it could end up being offensive if it is somebody tries to correct me. So it is a powerful thing, but as we were saying before, it takes a while to, one of the persons before was saying that it takes a while to get there. So it is powerful, yes, but how do we get to that stage?
Yeah. Well, Jason, the whole thing about accountability is not as like straight as how we can imagine it, right? Because when I hear what what you just mentioned a while ago, all right, about it develops and builds over a while. That's one aspect of it. But there are some relationships that is born out of, you know, that you can have that individual or person who's going to say, hey, I don't think I agree with that. Or have you considered this? So I think one of the things that we also have to take into consideration too, what is the motive behind the supposed correction, right? And what I mean by that is the friend really looking out for your best interest, that they want you to succeed, or are they just making mention of that issue because they just want to, as we say here over in America, just be messy, or they just want to point out your flaws? So these are some things that we have to take into consideration too. But I think two brethren coming together and just respecting each other in their gifts and talent and love hanging around each other, that is the good side of the brotherhood. But it also requires that if I see, and I think I love to use this example, where if I, for some reason, was driving in an area and it's dark and it's foggy, and God forbid that I went over a precipice, but I was able to get up from that situation. And then I'm walking towards to go get help, and I see my friend. One of the first thing I'm gonna say, hey bro, listen, man. I just met in an accident. I don't think it's a good. Don't go there. You can't see, it's foggy, right? I'm hoping that my attitude and the way how I'm saying that to my friend is not received as if I'm stopping him from having fun, but it's received because I really do care about his best interest and not wanting him to get hurt. So I think at the end of it, I think the reasoning or the purpose or the motive behind why what is done, it has to be taken into consideration, because relationship in of itself, of whatever or however it is not really easy. We look at the flowery side of it, but there's a part of it that require some amount of responsibility, require some amount of truth telling. You really can't be in a good relationship if you're not able to really say, hey, this is a situation. So I know I said a lot, but I'm just kind of like trying to unpack it from perspective that at the end of the day, why do we do what we do?
I feel from a Caribbean perspective, we have learned that part of male relationship is what we called pecan, which is that if it is that you come into a group of men, any group of men, let's say only for the Caribbean, right? I assume it's the same internationally, but the group of men will first test your resolve, will first test to see how can you handle negative statements, how can you handle
True.
embarrassments. If it is that
Yeah.
you can't handle when we laugh at ourselves, then you are really not going to come together with these guys. And so that first level, which we normally term become, is really the first step in being accountable, because these guys will point out your flaws. And if you are mature enough to handle that, then you are accepted into the group, and then you can move on. Then you are able to grow, because we all know, well, all right, if something is wrong with you, you will be told. If you are, and it's a lot like they say all the bad things to you so that there's no bad things to say about you. And so they will defend you publicly, right? But in private, man, you're going to get it.
So that's the thing I was thinking though, because when Warren made this statement, and even as you were speaking, it kind of confirmed, for me, men are competitive by nature. And then ego comes into play. So for another man to tell you something that I don't think you're doing the job as good as you should be doing it, is either it is, okay, I have to one up him, or you should be telling me that because I know I do it as best as possible. And then so I had like that thought, and then I had the other thought in terms of, how hard is it, or how easy is it for men to really be accountable to one another? I mean, I can't speak for ladies in terms of how easy it is for them either. I'm thinking in terms of men, because of the ego and the competitive nature, is it really just like I walk in the back to say, okay, I can really hear another man telling me that, you know what, well, you can parent better or you could be a better husband.
Well, I think this is why growing up, sport is so important. Playing a team sport, especially playing team sports, you understand that you are not yet perfect. You might be very talented, right? And except you understand that you can improve, then team sports really is not for you. Because in a team sport, every single one of your teammates should be able to tell you, hey, I noticed this about your footwork, your arm action, whatever the case might be. And you can improve this by doing this.
But if I sister, if I
Yeah.
carry the team on my back, is it, I don't want to, I mean, you make it look.
Yeah. Highly likely. But even if that were the case, even if that were the case, you still need to be able to listen to the member of the team that can see what you're doing wrong. Because if you're making 100 and you are missing shots on your leg side, then you can be making 200. But
True.
But
you have to
Curtis,
be man.
but you know what? I hear what you say about the whole team thing, right? But you being a part of a team don't mean saying you and the people are friends. And when we talk about you refer to the whole thing about being competitive, right? So yeah, I could receive that. I say, well, my teammate is really having my best interest at heart. But I could also look at it and like, who him to come tell me about this or that, right? I guess it would have been different if it was one of my boys that we close, who we line with, saying that to me versus a regular teammate.
No, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that the teammate is the friendship, right? I'm saying that this is where you learn the idea of being corrected without
Okay.
being offended.
Okay.
Right? And that is important in relationships because there are some things that Pythagoras can't teach. Right?
That's
And
true.
so if it is that we wait on the school system to teach us everything when we are not going to be
But so let me
and
ask you a question. How do you help that person who's really talented but have low self-esteem and always seemingly every time when somebody tries to correct them, it look like it's an attack versus somebody really looking out for their best interest? What would you say to that individual?
right now that dealing with difficult situations, dealing with difficult individuals, requires you earning the trust of that individual. And there are some people that you will not be able to correct. And that's fair enough. But you have to understand that then that will not be your partner. That will not be a friend if you can't approach him. So that you might be able to reach somebody in his inner circle. All right. You might be able to reach somebody that he would listen to. Because if it is that he is talented and so insecure that he listens to nobody, then that's just narcissistic. And I don't know what the treatment is for that.
So, because I think about that as well, because I could have a gym instructor and I'm accountable to my gym instructor. So I could have a dietitian, I could have different people that if it is they are mentoring me or they are hired to help support me, I could be accountable to them because those things are happening. So at the same time, can I not just have other people that are accountable to? And my friend is literally just for lineman, and so there's no accountability that needs to take place. We just in it for the fun.
You know, when you go line with your friend, you literally put your life in their hands a lot of the time. But a lot of times, one of you all will be driving. One of you all, I mean, most times we line after 12. And so you're talking about your ability to stay awake and alert on the road, right? And if it is that you are saying that you cannot be accountable to a guy that you put your life in his hand, that you can't say to him, you are drunk, I am not going to be driving with you. I should be driving. Or you are sleepy, or you are not alert. You should not be driving. If it is that you are putting your life in the hands of somebody that you just can't say that simple thing to, then you need to examine that friendship.
Well, two things. One, I'm sorry, but two things. One for me, I don't want you to imply that the pastor was drunk, right? Because you might be like, when I was talking about this on regular life,
He was an
for
example.
alcohol, right?
Yeah.
Go there. But then is it just not just trust? I mean, I could trust the person
That is, if you trust me and I tell you, Jason, you shouldn't be driving, then whether or not you listen to me, that's accountability,
okay.
right? Because
True.
if it is that you don't trust me and you just feel, well, I just want to drive your car, well, then that's up to you,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I am putting my life in your hands by putting myself in your vehicle, right? I'm just using that as an example. But if it is that these are the things, this is how important friendships are. Because if it is that you should get in trouble, somebody should jump you, you would expect that the people you are with would be able to assist you and not just run away and leave you.
Okay.
Now, let me ask a question, Curtis, right? Talking about the whole thing about being drunk, right? What if it's your friend who stirred the pot?
Meaning,
Do you, I mean, like, say, let me paint a picture. Say you guys went to Lime, right? And there was some opposing team or some other guys on the other side, and your friends start to say some things or, offend, or maybe one of those guys maybe see him with their girlfriend or don't know what the situation is, or maybe your friend really must be messing with the man girlfriend, and then they come over and there's a fight. Do you help your friend fight first and then rebuke him later, or what? If you're aware of the situation.
what the thing is, and I've told people this, I've said, here's what, I need to stop you now, because if we start a fight, I'll have to defend you. So I prefer,
Say that one more time.
if a fight breaks out, I'll have to defend you because you are my friend,
Uh-huh.
right? But so I
Uh-huh.
need to stop you from now because I don't want to fight needlessly.
Okay.
So if it is that you are causing a disturbance,
Mhm.
let me preemptively get in here at this point because we don't know what will happen afterward. Because I'm not going to leave you, right? I might set aside and pick you up and carry you home, but I'm really not going to leave you. I mean, if we came together, we're leaving together,
Okay.
right? So I prefer to preemptively jump in and say, here's what, you know what? You are the one causing a disturbance. This is not necessary.
Okay.
We don't have to go down this road.
All right. So I think we're going into the second question. So we'll take a break right here and then we'll go back into the second question because how do we hold our friends accountable without ruining the friendship? So we're going to look at the second question in terms of holding friends accountable. Many men worry that if it is a call out of friend, it could end up ending the friendship. So how do we keep our strong bond while it is we still be able to speak the truth to the person? And as we talked about in the earlier segment, in terms of ego, that's a big thing. So for men, all right, if I want to tell somebody something, so like recently, I was at a funeral, and the person's relative was a female, had a booger in their nose. And I was like, do I say anything? Do I just leave this here? I said, I'm speaking to the person privately and say, well, this is what's happening because they're coming out to their relative funeral. Now, in terms of how it may look to other people. But in that scenario, somebody might take it okay, and maybe a female might take it differently. But again, when men come together to talk, ego, like if I come to Chris and say, Chris, you're great, and you could have talked to your daughter better, but I really didn't think you handled that in the best way. To me, at times, the ego comes into play because I think no human, I think more so for men, like to hear that they're doing something wrong
Why you say more so for men?
because of the competitive nature.
I don't think only that, Jason.
Women are listening to this podcast, but Jesus and Jason, I can give you some names that you can do some research, and I will tell you.
Oh,
You
no.
go and tell these women that they did something wrong, and they come and tell me. If you still insist on this more so.
So Jason, I would have preferred you told me that I have booger in my nose. right? Because you'd have saved me. I'm very conscious of stuff like that, right? So you'd have saved me the embarrassment, okay? Because I honestly feel that you really care about me. That's why you did that, okay?
Okay.
If you
But that
didn't,
example is okay. But if it is a commentary about your parenting and how that was,
parenting, well,
yeah.
you've done that to me before, aren't we? Not still friends, eh, Jason?
But I guess we had to come to that place, and as I say, how do you do it
Let
with
me
other people?
okay. Let me say this to you. Let me put in my 2 cents where this is concerned. What you just mentioned right there requires the individual on the receiving end. If okay, the question specifically was how do we do what we do and then maintain the relationship? Truth be told, Jason, it's a gamble, in my honest opinion, right? Because you really can be in the right, you may do it the right time, and it still go the wrong way. I'm just gonna say this off the bat, and we are brothers and we are Christians, and hopefully, as spiritual leaders, this would be one of the ways how we go about doing things. Of late, I've been saying to myself, if I see something that needs to be corrected, then I'm gonna pray about it and ask God to give me wisdom of how to handle it. But even in God's wisdom, Jason, we may never always get the outcome that we are hoping that we will get, right? I think when you do what you do and when you say what you say, you can only hope for the best, right? And the person may get their feelings hurt. But if that individual is really genuine and someone who has some level of maturity, even if they get their feelings hurt about the situation, like in question with the parenting thing, they'll come back and they may say, man, you're right, right? But if they're really, really just gun ho on you upsetting that apple cart, why would you have said that? Then the question then is, was that individual as an individual friend in the first place? Because there's a word called koinonia, which means, in other words, coming together. And I mean, we have different personality types, Curtis. We have people from different backgrounds. You guys are Trini. I'm Jamaican, but I live in the United States for almost 20 something years. And I'm even a little different from even the Jamaicans that are back there in 2025, right? Here in the West, in America, people are not very direct, while my Trini brothers and my Jamaican brothers are very direct, right? And so where I'm at right now, a lot of times you have to be very, like the kids are saying today, very mindful and very demure with how you go about doing stuff, right? But Jason, Nikisha, my wife, they just have a way of just telling you what time it is. Now, I have learned at this juncture in my life that the best thing for me to do is to receive it and try not to get myself all worked up about it. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Some folks really, truly, the problem they have with being that people have, that the problem they have with people making, trying to trying to be accountable is the fact that sometimes there's some underlying insecurities going on there, right? And if in the case of the whole parenting thing, if I really thought in my mind that I did the right job and I was correcting the child, then my friend come and tell me, well, you could have handled it differently. Sometimes the first initial reaction is, but why? I mean, that's my kid. Like many people would say. But if you walk away from a situation, you take your time and you really kind of look it over, you will see some truth in what your friend is saying. Because maybe your friend is saying, hey, nothing's wrong with you correcting, but maybe the time and the place and the words that were being used were not the right words used in that moment. So I think at the end of the day, to answer the question from my perspective, you could possibly win or lose the situation. You have to be ready and willing to say, you know what, I'm going to do my best and I'm going to, do my part. Here they say, I'm going to check something. I don't really want, that's not the point. I'm going to really make sure that some way, somehow my friend understand that what I saw and heard, I don't think was good. And then let me hope and pray that it was received and that the person will come back. Now, for me now, on the other side, if however the outcome or whatever the outcome is, I'm going to have to just deal with it. If I know genuinely in my heart that it was coming from a good place, I want to say at this stage, I think I would be okay. And then I would have to maybe ask myself a question. Was there friendship in the first place?
Yeah, there's also the issue, Jason, where some people feel that they have an innate right to criticize. And that is not what we are saying that we want to do. All right. What we're saying is that if this is my friend, right, he should be able to understand that I am after his best interest.
True.
We're not talking about some random person that everything that they see wrong, they want to be able to point it out because, hey, you know what? Criticism makes you better. That's not the person we're talking about. We're talking about my friend who I know, who has proven to be
My
for
friend.
my better interest,
Mm-hmm.
right? Who was proven to say, you know what? I want the best in this man. My friend will be able to come to me. I may not like it. I may not. And well, you have been out of the Caribbean for a while. Caribbean men are just as direct. You understand? And it is harsh. They will tell you, but they will tell you for you. They wouldn't go in the open behind your back and say all of these things that is wrong with Curtis or Jason. What they will say is, you, Curtis, you, Worrell, you, Jason, could have done this better.
Yeah.
All right. It may be harsh, but if you understand that you have a proven friendship, a tested friendship,
Yeah.
then it should not be that there is any insecurity or any pushback from just simply taking correction.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what is a constructive way or technique to be able to go about sharing something that you observe with a friend? I remember sometime ago we were talking about the psychology of it. I can't remember what was it too. Something we were looking at. Some model we were looking at. I don't know if it's applicable in this moment, but I remember I want to say Pythagoras is terrible.
But
Oh, I don't know what to say.
see, I would always, I don't want to say defer to scripture because I really feel I want to start with the scriptural example. And I always
Right.
remember, it says, let your speech be seasoned with grace.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if it is that my correcting you is not for my aggrandizement, it's not to make me look good.
Right.
All right. If my correcting you is honestly and genuinely for your benefit, right? Then I know. And it's not when people say, you see me? I don't know if they say that by you, Ed, World. They say that, and a lot in the Caribbean still. You see me? I don't care what you think. I want to get it off my chest. If it is that you are correcting
Sure.
me to get it off your chest, you might as well leave it on your chest.
You're right. You're right.
Might as well leave it on your chest
Yeah.
because I don't need it. I don't need it. All right?
Mm.
If it is that you're correcting me for my benefit,
Mm-hmm.
then by all means, I would understand. I might not take it in the moment, right? But it will not stop our friendship because I know, even though I didn't like it, and even as Paul said, no correction for the present time seems good.
Mm-hmm.
But because I know that it was for my ultimate benefit, I am still going to respect you as a friend. And I'm going to respect you even more because you, to use your analogy, pulled me away from that cliff wall.
I think that timing is also important. In the heat of the moment, maybe if okay, we are brothers, and I am Caribbean. I mean, you hear it. I've had moments when I have to correct my kids, like in that moment. But I know, Curtis, that the correction was laced with something other than the fact that I needed to correct my kid. Now I'm going somewhere psychological here in that moment. In other words, it was like something else was happening, right? And then the child just exacerbate the whole thing, make it a little more whatever. And then, like a true Caribbean man, vocals has been, gone to a crescendo, and I'm talking to the kid, right? Anybody see that was like, man, that's really harsh. And so for me, if I see a friend doing that in that moment, and I know correction is necessary, I try my best not to try to do it at that time because I know that emotions are high.
Mm-hmm.
So I will I would ask the Lord, I would say, God, just give me the grace so we can do this at another time. I have a friend of mine, Curtis. Every time that he's going to do a correction about something, right? The first thing he do is say, let's pray. And from I hear that, from I hear that I know where it's going. And then there's a story that comes immediately after. David one day while he was walking. No,
Wow.
I'm not saying that method's gonna work for everybody. I'm
Bro,
just
he
saying
will
that
give you a complex for praying. Anytime you hear somebody, oh my God, what he's gonna do now?
exactly. So I
We're
know
always
that
receiving correction.
yes, as soon as I hear let's pray or a scripture, maybe not in it like always that in that method, but anytime I hear, I know there is love and genuine care behind it because the person who really have my best interest at heart. Now you said something earlier, Curtis, that if some random person who just trying to get some brownie points or who just want to just own them out, we have them in church. I mean, I went back to Jamaica at a funeral recently, and somebody who I know, like really, I was not going to pick up the phone and call each other. Right there in that moment, the person was correcting me about something right there. Nobody just didn't see it, but I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, really? But because of who I am or hope to be, I just say, no, let me just let that pass, right? Sometimes some folk believe that because they know you, that you're still at that particular place. And they may want to use what they think they know of you to kind of bring some about to correction. But like I said, if there's no relationship, that's not necessarily correction. That is somebody maybe just want to, show how much they know, whatever. I'll say this in closing from this perspective. People care more about how much you care, not how much you. And we genuinely can know how much somebody care, the way how they treat you, the way how they respond, the way how they say stuff. So for me, as long as I know deep in my heart that you have my best interest at heart, the mature Warrell would receive that. Even if there's a little, hurt at the surface, I know that you really care about me. Right. But Warrell of older Warrell, when the teenage Warrell would have been a little incensed, and you'll see it on my face that, I'm bothered. It's the truth. But yeah.
Yeah, I think as Curtis was mentioning, your words being seasoned with
It's
salt
great.
and with grace, I think it really has to be a mixture because, there's, I try to remember fully, people come and tell you, I don't mean no disrespect, but, and of course, once they say that, right
You
after,
know. Yeah.
something coming that level. And so I think, as you say, in terms of time and in terms of the words and in terms of the sometimes environment
Yeah.
or what's taking place at the point in time could already
Yeah.
help in terms of the setting, in terms of where it's done. I
Mm-hmm.
think, as you say, sometimes in the heat of the moment is sometimes after it's the best time you've observed something. And secondly, I think now it's kind of twofold because if you see somebody do something once, you may have the opportunity to say, hey, this wasn't the best thing that you did. But then sometimes you can look at patterns and behaviors. If this we see it once, twice, and we know, okay, this is not a isolated incident. So I know we're wrapping up this segment, but could you could answer that question in terms of if I see you do something once and I'm like, nah, bro, that wasn't it. Or do I wait until I see it happen more than once to be okay, this is something I then talk about, or do I address it as soon as I see the issue?
No, well, two things. If it is that you see something once and it can be fixed immediately, I think, well, sure.
Okay.
All right. If it is that you see something that cannot be fixed immediately and that's the only time you ever see it, it may be that something is off with that person. It may be that that person having a bad day or whatever.
Okay.
All right. However, if you notice a pattern of behavior, all right, and that pattern of behavior is definitely detrimental to that person and the people around him, I think then you have an obligation to find a way to broach that topic with the person.
Okay. Great.
Can I ask one question, Jason?
Sure.
If you sense that something is off with your friend, right? And maybe where you have a secondhand information, maybe somebody maybe confide in you on something and told you something about a friend. Maybe there's receipt, right? how would you approach that situation if you have to talk to your friend about it? Let me put it in context. We are believers. This is the first thing that comes to mind. Maybe you have a friend and his wife is saying to you, hey man, who you see out here in the streets and the same person but at home is abusive. Maybe it's not physical, but he used a lot of very harsh words and stuff like that to me and whatever. Okay. Now you don't see your friend doing it or what, but this is somebody who close to them kind of confining or telling you that this is what is going on.
Mm-hmm.
How would you handle that?
I mean, oh, I love for Curtis to check it out as well. Here's what it is. I think
Why you want me to chime in on the abusive wife? I don't understand.
It's an example, Curtis.
Here's the consideration at the end of the day. The consideration is this. It will really be interesting how it is you approach it because you talk about something very personal there. So if it is we are accustomed again being a country now we're talking about life and we more focus on, let's say, our Christianity, or we focus on our health, or we focus on those other things. Me just coming outside the blue to talk about marriage. I mean, obviously it may show in such a way because to me it's difficult to navigate. How do you start to have the conversation without the person realizing that the wife would have said something, right? And so that's why I say it's a kind of a tricky question in terms of that because you have to find a way to navigate without selling out your source for want of a better phrase. And so I think again we'll come back to having an opportunity to be able to share and just to talk general things and put in marriage at some point in time because that's a kind of navigation that it is tricky because it's not an observed behavior. I'll say because you can't say it has come to my attention or somebody say it was a general statement in terms of, well, a couple of times I see you push somebody where he was or in church or whatever it may be, that was different. But you talk about within the context of marriage, and to me that's where it just kind of you have to really navigate it a little differently.
Well, I think that, I mean, granted, for our friend group, all topics are fair game. And so if it is that we are discussing life in general, right? And I know something about your marriage that is concerning, then I can bring up a subject not related to you, but I can bring it up hypothetically. Okay. Right? Or I can use another example of a similar situation. Right? Because I think that if it is that we are discussing, and I mean, when men really talk for a very long time, about all kind of thing. We speak on all different areas. And marriage has to be one of the areas that comes up. And if it is that you are interested in your friend's future, right? I think that you need to find a way, bring it up in context of someone else, right? All right, but bring it up and ask him, and then you would see what he says if he is going to straight out lie and say this is never going to be me, or if he's saying, well, I have issues with that, right?
Well, so Curtis, what if your friend don't tell the truth? How does that go? How do you move on from?
Well, that's the thing. If he does not tell the truth, at least I leave there knowing that he knows the truth. So he knows how it should be handled. Even if he's saying, well, no, I will never ever do that. Right? But I understand that he's leaving there this conversation knowing that he knows how it should be handled. And there are things, if you really are close to a brother, you would know, well, all right, push him to say, well, all right, he's going to say something. I mean, men kind of twist your words to make you seem that you're saying things anyway, take it. And so if it is that even in jest, you would be able to deal with that topic, right? And sometimes men are going through some stressful situations that they are not confident enough to broach. And if it is that you can bring it up jokingly and have them deal with it, put it on the table, and have other men have their input, I think that's very valuable.
So it is true It is true then when you say that you're joking, you're really not joking.
Sometimes the best way
Or
to bring across a difficult subject is in jest,
Right.
but it's very serious.
So,
um,
just before we close off, one of the things we wanted to say was how do we normalize it? And I know we kind of mentioned that already in terms of we're just having the conversations and being open and accountable. I remember what it was. It was actually the Jahari window,
Oh, okay.
because I know that was something that we had mentioned in conversation before. But it's
not the
really, it was,
Pythagoras theorem. That's
yeah,
my
correct. What is where it was, I know, and you know, I want to wrap up with this where it says, I know this was mentioned in terms of, you know, the things that we see that other people may not be able to see everything, but as people who are in close proximity to these persons, you know, and if you could just share your final thoughts, you and then Warrell, but like how can we use this in terms of really sharing with our friends and with the men that we have our friendships with in terms of ensuring that accountability takes place?
All right. And I always, from the view, I like to look at different perspectives. And it is that even that same scenario that you brought up with the Johari window,
Mm.
the understanding is that no one person sees the entirety of a situation.
Right.
There is at least 50% that you cannot see. Right? You don't know how people are going to, how people are reacting to you. And so then you trust someone to be able to tell you what they see from their perspective. There's like a wife asking her husband, how do I look in this outfit? She already has in her mind an idea of how she looks. She sees the good and the bad. Trivialize that question and say, okay, look good. Some women get vexed with that because what I want is your perspective. No, you might very well tell her perspective and she just ignore you. You don't know what you're talking about. But in male relationships,
I feel like the example, but
in
that's a
male,
whole different conversation.
no, in male relationships, if it is that we need to understand that perspective is valuable.
Mhm.
And so if a guy asks you, what do you think about that?
Mhm.
That is your opportunity to then be open and honest. And the more we are open with each other, then we can build trust with each other. Then we are able to expand our knowledge, grow our behavior in such a way that it is going to redound to our ultimate benefit.
Oral?
You know, as I hear Curtis talk, the scripture comes to mind. Confess your faults one to another that you might be healed. Right? Part of having someone trust you is you also have some level of have some level of vulnerability, in the sense that I don't think anything is wrong with you showing your humanity or your human side. When an individual realizes that you have to put on your pants one foot at a time and you have to brush your teeth and you have to take a shower, and that is just basic. I'm just trying to say, when they see that human side of you, I think you would have won them over when they need that sounding board to really talk to someone. One of the things that I do with some of my friends, I would say to them, hey, anytime I come and ask you, how are you? Right? I'm not just asking you surface. I really genuinely want to know what's going on. And I think if someone have that sounding board where they can really share, and they know it's a safe space, that they know that you have their back and you're not going to go, ratting off and talking things. Because one of the things that I notice about men, anytime we find that trust is broken, you can't, you're not, that brother shut down. You're not going to hear nothing from them again. So
Yeah, that's it.
there has to be a place where there is trust. I can walk away from here. And I have guys, brother like that, where we've spoken and, they've shared stuff with me and they can rest assured that, I'm not going to go out there peeling beans. Pray for them. And I think that is somewhere where we have to start first, that there's this level of trust. And I think if we have that, then hopefully such an individual can rest assured that you got them and you will, not only just listen, but you will give sound advice if necessary.
All right, so let's go into our ironclad questions. I was going to ask the two
Thanks for
gentlemen with
tuning
me
into this
those
episode of
questions. And so,
Brocountability.
to Warrell,
If something in today's
how do I get
conversation
a friend to
resonated with
be
you,
more
or if you know
open to
someone who needs to
accountability
hear it,
without
share
sounding
this episode.
judgmental?
And don't forget
You want me
to
to answer
leave
that
a
now?
review to
Yes,
help
sir.
more brothers find this community.
How do I get a friend to
Got
be
questions or want
accountable
to connect?
without
Hit us up at
me
our
sounding
Let's be more
judgmental?
open to accountability without sounding judgmental.
www.brocountability.com. And
Well,
remember,
I
this
think in
is
everything,
Brocountability,
education is key.
where iron sharpens iron.
I'm sorry, this sounds like I'm answering the question like I'm being interviewed. But if I'm able to really help that individual to understand the importance of accountability and how it can develop and help them to be their best selves, and also the fact that they can rest assured that I've got their back and vice versa, I think I would have given that person an opportunity to really be accountable because they know that I do care about them. So, I just want to put this pin. When I hear the word accountability for the first time, it sounds quite Western to me because it wasn't something that I grew up doing or hearing and understanding. And I just felt like a lot of times it was just people just want to just spill their guts because they don't want to deal with the guilt of what they're going through. That was how I saw it. But then later on, I realized, no, it's deeper than that. It really requires you bearing your soul and knowing that God, the God on that person, in the inside of the person who got you, and you can trust that they're going to take care of you as a brother. And so, as I said before, if you can allow that individual to understand the importance of accountability, then I think it will allow that individual to be more open and wanting to trust and just talk because it helps. We know, Curtis, that we live in a world today. There's so much that's going on. The whole thing about mental health in our society today is not Western. Everywhere you turn, you're hearing people talking about it. We maybe used to call it something else in the island, stress or whatever you want to call it. But there's so much things that people are dealing with today. And we really need to have an opportunity where we can talk to somebody without being judged or feeling like, oh God, I've maybe said too much. And so what I would do is help my friend or whoever I'm talking to understand that accountability is not just you making sure you come and just tell me your 15 do's and 15 do nots, but it's a place that you can really come and just talk and just be your authentic self, knowing that what is being discussed is kept in private. I mean, I tell my friends all the time, the only thing, and I think I'm just kind of putting on my social work hat where I say, if you try to unalive yourself or someone else, then I'm required by law to share that information. But other than that, whatever you tell me stays here. Yep.
All right, cool.
Thanks. I think in terms of that, I think the most important thing, if you want someone to be more comfortable to you, then what you really need to do is just be a good friend. Just be a good friend. Just be there. Just be available. Just let them know that they can come to you in instances as well. And even though, you're going through depression and you might feel that you want to end it all, right? Be a good friend. Don't study, well, okay, I want them to be accountable to me. That's not the goal. Your goal is to be a good friend. Be the best friend possible.
All right, cool. The second question is, what is the best way to receive accountability without getting defensive?
Well, as I said, to understand that the person is after your best interest. The person is looking out for you. And as long as, accountability doesn't exist in a vacuum. If I am certain that this advice, this correction is coming from a place of genuine concern, then I am going to receive it. Even if not immediately, then eventually it is going to happen.
All right. Wonderful. And so, as we wrap up this episode, one of the key takeaways is that accountability isn't about calling out somebody. It is all about making sure your friends rise to their full potential. And so we thank you for joining this episode, and we look forward to seeing you on the next. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Brocountability. If something in today's conversation resonated with you, or if you know someone who needs to hear it, share this episode. And don't forget to leave a review to help more brothers find this community. Got questions or want to connect? Hit us up at our website www.brocountability.com. And remember, this is Brocountability, where iron sharpens iron.